Alright guys, Hatchcomic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. The day has finally arrived. The World Championship is upon us. 4 matches coming up this evening. At the end of the weekend, in just a few days' time, the champion of this 2025 Call of Duty League season will officially be crowned. Shotzzy, he's at it again, talking about the practice that OpTic have had over the last couple of weeks and says that in many respects, they are absolutely frying. Some of the teams that they're playing do not know what they're doing. They were slamming somebody 250 to 16. Is this going to be same old, or is it going to be true tonight against Atlanta FaZe? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Big thanks to PrizePicks as well, supporting the content this weekend. If you guys want to get involved in daily fantasy, use the link in the description box below. Claim $50 in your first $5 pick with code BreakingPoint if you want to get involved. And they've also introduced Series KD. So instead of more or less than kills in a map or in a series, in a 3-map series or whatever, you can look at as follows. Now, I know that some people got this Dashy line at 0.85, which was pretty mega. We'll see what happens on that one tonight. Get involved if you're interested, play responsibly if you choose to do so, and let's crack on with the video, because these are your Call of Duty League champions, and we've never had the same organisation technically win two. Yes, Envy won in 16, and then effectively again in 2020 with Dallas Empire, OpTic won in 2017, and again with OpTic Texas in 2024, but effectively the same logo does not appear on here twice, apart from the OpTic one, which is rather similar, and the Envy is also existing in the Dallas Empire logo. As you guys will know, of course, plenty of players won across many of these periods, but not necessarily the same franchise. That is likely to change this year. Dallas Empire no longer exists, but FaZe won in 21, Thieves won in 22. Pretty likely one of those will win again, but honestly, who knows? Maybe this weekend will throw out some serious surprises. The COD League, they finally did it. They put out a tweet, one more day, hype it up, a little video here, hyping up for the World Championship. So yeah, great stuff. Obviously, everyone's feeling really engaged about the competitive scene at the moment, right? But look, thankfully, everyone is out there now. Hopefully, lessons will be learned about this period for future seasons. And look, the guys are out there in Kitchener getting some content ready to go before the event. They sat down with the players. They asked them various questions. We'll see that, I'm sure, coming out over the weekend. I've got a clip to share for you guys on that one in a couple of seconds here. But the FaZe guys sit down out there in Kitchener. Here are the Miami guys as well with their jerseys on for the tournament. How are Miami going to get on? It's actually a big question. They've done so well over the last couple of tournaments. Are they going to prove to be something like a Vancouver Surge when, maybe they had their chance, right? Top 3, top 4, and then when it comes to the big one, it might not go to plan. They're still a threat for sure. They've got the talent in there. But I do wonder that after the series they played against Thieves, when they obviously got knocked out of the tournament back in DreamHack, whether that potentially could be a key point for them, maybe not having quite enough in the tank to beat the top teams again. But we'll see. I mean, it's really difficult to call, and it's exciting to see how these guys are going to get on. Thieves, though, as they say, all eyes are on us. And, some of the stuff they've done for this is pretty fire. I know that when the guys went out to the World Cup last year, they had all sorts of studios taking pictures, making some content with the players. Seems like that was going on here. So at least there's going to be stuff during the World Championship weekend generating the hype. I thought this picture was pretty fire, as was this one from the 100 Thieves vlog. They did the 0 to 100 the other day. I'm not sure what the Challengers pit looks like and what the setup is, but apparently it's pretty spectacular. And this doesn't come as a surprise to me. Toronto have always done a killer job on this front. They've partnered with AMD for this tournament as well. So they're doing, they've done everything they really can for Challengers. And as Ben says, this is probably the nicest Challengers setup we've had for their Champs event. So I'm going to laugh when they eventually find something to complain about. Of course, Bads was going to be here with the replies, and he says, I love Toronto and their love for Challengers, but are we seriously gassing something that should be standard instead of calling out how mistreated Challengers are from the rest, which is, probably fair enough, really. I'm sure Toronto would like and frankly deserve their gas, I think, for running this in the way that hopefully it will be run, but equally, I don't think Bads is necessarily wrong to say, okay, well, this is what we should have from every tournament in an ideal world. But of course, it's not an ideal world, and there's not maybe the money in this scene that we might like, and there is from certain sources, but not necessarily the, let's say, the right ones coming down from Microsoft and Activision Blizzard in terms of actually having any funds to market this damn tournament, which we've not seen much of either. And effectively the limit of the hype for this event was Intel CDL putting out some graphics, right? I mean, okay, the COD League kind of did this as well, but we've not really seen much, have we? Let's be honest here. These are the Ultra Boys. Of course, they play Ravens tonight. It's the third series of the day. Not expected to be, the most entertaining of the day, but who knows, honestly. They played an interesting Game 5 series back at Major 4. We know that Slasher likes to turn up on LAN. I don't know. Toronto have been putting in a lot of work. They should be favourites in this series. Ravens, you know, it would be a real classic, right, if they start the season strong and then just completely fall off at the end of the year. But also these guys at the end of the day are fighting for their jobs on some level, right? Like, I think if you look at that Ravens team, Dylan Rex, if he bombs out here, does he get another chance? Maybe not. Gwinn will stay around somewhere. But I think for Slasher, there's, you know, a little bit of like, okay, he's had a great start to the year, fell off during the second half. I know a lot of that was online, and when he turned up to LAN at the last major, he only played one series, but he had like a 1.2 or whatever. So that, you know, is kind of how it sometimes is with Slasher. And I don't think that he should be struggling if he wants to keep competing to get a spot next year. But you never know, right? And this is the type of situation, especially if the Ravens after this season, they blow up their organisation, they sell their org to somebody else. Who knows where any of these players land next year? Of course, the World Cup's still a thing, that's going to be relevant, but at the end of the day, champs means more, as we well know. And OpTic play FaZe. That's the final game of the day. We know that their record over the last couple of years since Drazah has joined has not been good in the favour of OpTic Texas. They've beat him like 10-2 or whatever it is over the last couple of years. The record isn't pretty, but that doesn't mean that it can't necessarily change today. FaZe have been the second best team of the season. They won a couple of LAN events. OpTic's best placing is only 4th, the most recent tournament, but they did seem to be trending in a pretty good direction there. 7th in the overall season, only 220 CDL points, the worst you've ever really seen from OpTic. That doesn't mean they can't end it on a high. And if ever you're going to beat FaZe, you know, the round 1 is maybe the time to go and do exactly that, apart from the finals, many people would say, based on the history there. So Dashy's record is pretty interesting because Drazah has definitely had OpTic's number, but historically Dashy's record against Cellium is actually really quite good, and maybe their record in scrims is really quite good again. So here we go again, ladies and gentlemen, and they were talking about this on the Game Chat show. Shotzzy also mentioned it, I think, on the Drop podcast as well, or whatever it's called, the Drop pod with the Halo guys, about how the scrims have been going leading up to the tournament. So we saw him mention, we talked about it yesterday, the frustrations with scrimming, right? And the chore that it seems to be. And I think that, like, at the end of the day, Shotzzy is not like a fresh-faced kid anymore who's only played a few matches of competitive COD, right? This guy's been around years, and I think naturally you tend to get that when you've been around several years competing. Scrims are never going to be what they once were, regardless of whether a game is good or bad. And yeah, could the game be better? I think the frustrating thing really is the maps. The game is fine, but it's like, you've got a scrim protocol all day. Like, yeah, man, that's not a fun one as far as I'm concerned. So I understand why Shotzzy made his thoughts yesterday clear to formal that, like, yeah, it feels a bit more of a job, a bit more of a chore, a bit more of suit and tie than it used to. But I think this happens naturally, right? I mean, you see it in F1, for example, when new kids come in, they're so excited, they're so wide-eyed about everything that's going on. Give them a couple of years. Do they want to be in the simulator, putting in the work? Do they want to be talking to the media all the time about the same questions again and again? Not really, right? They just want to turn up and drive. So, you know, that's how the trajectory tends to go. Doesn't necessarily mean they're worse drivers or worse players in this case. It's just kind of how it is. But we know that they have been grinding, right? Shotzzy was like, yeah, okay, it feels a bit more like a chore, but it's not like we haven't been putting in the work. And we know that Mercury's joined the team not long ago. Like, on paper, when a player joins a team and you see what that roster is capable of, Kenny said this multiple times, you get the feeling relatively quickly of how good the team could be. But it doesn't mean they can't still improve, right? Like, Kenny's point was really, you put a team of 4 together, and I know that maybe it wasn't exactly Kenny's point, but people have made this point, that when you put a team together, you get a glimpse relatively quickly in scrims, in matches, whether they can be good or not, like whether they can be seriously good. Doesn't mean they're going to be that good immediately, but if a team is terrible out of the gate, they're probably never going to be good. Like, they're never just going to magically switch it on at some point. But if a team shows promise, if you stick with it, it's not like the team shouldn't still improve over time. And that's the situation with the Mercury's pickup, is like, he comes in, they show a lot of promise relatively quickly out of the gate with Mercury's. Huke seems to be playing a better style of COD as well this year compared to previous years. Yeah, who knows what happens after this tournament and the World Cup, and, you know, based on what the results are, but the point still stands. OpTic's practice has been going well. Look, I'm sure that every team will tell you that their practice has been going well, but I thought we've got to get in one more frying in scrims before the World Championship.
Would you say is this the most stressful time of the year for you?
Nah, not really. I feel like it'd probably be stressful if your team was like not doing well. Yeah. Honestly, that's the best way to put it. I feel like right now we're in a really good spot, and I feel like there's only one thing that we got to work on that like will kind of change everything and put us in like the the top winning form. But other than that, I mean, honestly, we're actually chilling. I'm not gonna lie, we're fucking railing people right now. I'm not gonna lie. So like, I already know by the third, fourth map, like these guys aren't fucking trying. Yeah. I just know how it is. Like, like people's mentals are so weak to where like they lose the first 3-4 maps and they're not used to losing. Like, they're not doing their shit that they're normally doing. And I know like it's just fake practice at that point.
Like, they're like, no, they're so good online.
Wait, this is super random, but like, what's like the lowest scoring HP that you guys ever beat in the pro team?
250, 15.
250 to 15.
Yeah.
Oh, like in scrims?
Yeah, no, and not in the match. It's scrims.
In scrims, like
That was the other day.
Yeah, we literally beat someone 250 to 16 the other day. So that's one of them. That's one of them.
Why did you just look at me shocked like he wasn't in the match?
Yeah.
Like 2 days ago.
Nah, I literally
That was
forgot.
like 3 days ago.
Yeah. I actually forgot.
What I'm looking forward to most against FaZe is, I mean, just getting revenge. I mean, it's just kind of annoying when a team is just always beating you. So definitely looking forward to finally beating them.
The thing I'm looking forward to most in the matchup versus OpTic is the crowd and the environment. You know, it's always a hype matchup, so always playing against them is a fun match.
We're gonna win.
I'm gonna say 3-0, 3-1.
I'd probably say I'm looking forward to the most in a match against OpTic is honestly the crowd, the vibes of the tournament. I think it's a great way to start the tournament.
I mean, we haven't played a competitive match in like 3 or 4 weeks, so I'm just excited to play.
I got FaZe in 3.
I mean, I think we're gonna win.
I would say just the atmosphere of like the crowd and everything. I feel like the crowd's always going for OpTic, so I feel like being able to play against that is always a fun time.
I'm just looking forward to hopefully getting our revenge, all the work we putting it into action.
I would say FaZe 3-0.
3-0 or 3-1.
I'm also looking forward to the vibes during the OpTic match. I feel like, especially to kick off the tournament, it's gonna be a great way to start.
I feel like every single time we played them throughout the year, it's kind of just been on different rosters, so.
Oh, I think we're gonna start off the tournament hot. I think we're in 3-0.
It'll be a good one, and we're looking to come out on top.
So any guesses for who Shotzzy and the OpTic guys were slamming like that, 250 to 16? Because, it could be a Challengers team that's grinding for the Challengers Champs. It could be one of the teams that are at this tournament, right? It could be a team like, Ravens or whatever. But look, they could potentially play the Ravens in the second round. So more than likely, they would look to play teams on the other side of the bracket for some of their practice, that being Thieves, that being Miami, that being Surge, that being Boston. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're playing a little bit of Toronto and Ravens in there as well. So who knows? But this point as well on people aren't trying, right? Here we go again, right? Here we go again. We saw this back in January. But look, is Shotzzy necessarily wrong? If they're turning up to scrims, they're slamming the other team so bad that by map 3, the other team is like, yeah, well, our season's cooked, isn't it? What's even the point? So, and then they just basically check out mentally and OpTic rail them for the rest of the series. So I don't know, right? Like, what do you guys make of this as OpTic fans? I'm sure that OpTic fans will be, understandably, quite excited about this because Shotzzy's making it pretty clear that as far as he's concerned, things are looking rather good. But equally, I know that there's some OpTic fans that will be like, damn, and did you have to say anything? Like, could Leaksy have just kept quiet one time, right, just in case? Because people tend to say that when OpTic talking about Friday at scrims, it doesn't always go to plan. There was this, I think, was pretty funny last night. OpTic, whenever Shotzzy says this, because this is not exactly the first time this season that we have seen Shotzzy say something similar. But look, we'll see what happens. They'll turn up to the event. They're going to play tonight, of course, against Atlanta FaZe. This was the boys sitting down talking about it. And apparently everyone's just the most confident player of all time at the moment going into this match. Illy not going to be competing, right, either in the pro tournament side or the challenger side, but he did make it pretty clear recently that he is at least contemplating the idea of coming back to competitive play. And as Illy says, good luck to all the players and teams competing at Champs. It'll be a pleasure to watch some top tier gameplay. So don't disagree with that. It's been a wild ride over the last few weeks. At times, nothing at all was happening. Then all of a sudden, everything kind of happens at once. We get some roster drama potentially happening after the tournament, which I'm sure is going to be going down for some of these teams. We get some buzz around OpTic versus FaZe. We get Shotzzy talking about how their scrims have gone. At the end of the day, this tournament for OpTic, I think, comes down to their search and destroy. The scrims are hardpoint related, they're respawn related, but if they want to try and actually win this tournament, especially beating a team like FaZe or a team like Thieves at some point, you're unlikely going to go in there and win all of the respawns. It's just how it is. Those guys are too strong. Their map pool depth is just too strong. It's search and destroy that's going to make the difference this tournament, if anything is. but if OpTic can hang in the respawns, then it puts them in a far better position. So yeah, fascinated to hear your thoughts as always in the comment section below. And these are the 4 games of the day. So they're going to kick off at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. here for me back in the UK, 12 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Central. Choose your time zone at will. Surge Heretics to crack on with the day. We did the predictions for this the other day. I've got Miami, Thieves, Toronto, and look, logic says FaZe. I think FaZe are 55% favourites in this series, but I can very definitely see an OpTic win tonight. I wouldn't rule it out by any means. Last game of the day, OpTic seemed very confident. You know, FaZe will be the favourite, and they should win this series. They should be the stronger team. But, you know, it's been 4 weeks since I've seen any of these teams in action. Things could have changed quite a lot behind the scenes that we are not aware of yet. So, yeah, I think the day one's going to be very telling. I think Thieves need to be a little careful of Boston, but I expect them to handle business. The other series potentially could go either way. Certainly the first one is pretty difficult to call, but very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.